Swashbucklers, you're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 78. My name is Phil Johnson. Thank you once again for tuning into the show. Thank you for telling your friends. It is that kind of thing that makes you an awesome person and keeps this show going. So, episode number 78. Fun fact about the number 78, it is the total number of gifts in the 12 Days of Christmas song. So I gave you, if you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus, all the way up to 12, you get 78 gifts, which is a big credit card bill in December. That's you have to really be into somebody, right? Like that's an important person if you're going to get them 78 gifts. No, and where do you get maids and milking? Really? How do you buy maids and milking? It sounds like slavery. It doesn't even sound like something you can do. 78, also the number of cards in a typical tarot deck. So if that's your kind of thing, that's how many cards are in it. And if it is your kind of thing, you probably knew that already. So my guest today on the show is Sam Siegel. And Sam is the owner of the Schooner Pursuit, which is a really nice ship that is really, really in need of a lot of work. And he'll tell you the whole story about how he acquired the ship, what kind of work needs to go into said ship, and what he plans on doing with it afterward. And there's all sorts of cool little history tidbits and all sorts of fun stuff in this interview. So it's a fun talk. I think you're going to dig it. And he'll tell you the whole story. I wanted to talk to somebody who's in the midst of trying to rebuild a ship, and that's what Sam's doing. So we're going to get to Sam Siegel here in a minute. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, what a weekend. And what a week coming up. This is going to be a week of very little sleep for me. Over the weekend, I did a couple of sort of last-minute shows at Mother Mary's in Fresno, California. My good friend Danny Minch books those shows. And he, about 2 weeks before, he said, hey, do you want to do those dates at Mother Mary's? I was open. I said, great. So Fresno is about 3.5 hours from my house here in Milpitas. And so it was a lengthy drive. It was a Friday and a Saturday. And I've had good shows at this place. I've had weird shows at this place. And not only that, it's the last weekend that the place is going to be open. They're actually, as you're listening to this, they're closed. Mother Mary's is closed for a variety of reasons. But so there I am. I get there Friday night, and I do the show for a very small crowd for whatever reason. Very small crowd, but a fun crowd. Like, they were smart. They got all the jokes. I did lots of new stuff I'm working on. They got the songs, everything. It was a pretty fun show, despite it being a very small crowd. And then, so Friday night, I slept there in Fresno. I got up early Saturday morning. I drove the 3.5 hours back here to the San Jose area to give a bunch of music lessons Saturday morning, because it was last minute. I didn't want to, the booking was kind of last minute. My students, they'd already paid for the lessons. I didn't want to bail on them. So I drove all the way back Saturday morning and did lessons. So now I'm 7+ hours of driving so far within this 24-hour period. Less than 24 hours. Not only that, it took me like 5 hours to get there on Friday because of traffic, right? Okay, so I come back. I do lessons. I do half a dozen lessons or so, and I go have lunch with my girlfriend, and then I get back in the car, and I drive back to Fresno. So another 3.5 hours. I am now, 10.5 hours of driving over 2 days. Okay, so I get back there. Now, Saturday show, we have a crowd twice as large as the night before, which still is not super substantial, but it's a small room. It's filled. Everything's good, right? This crowd, half of them maybe didn't need to be there, is what I'm saying. Now, they always say, don't blame the audience. But when the audience is doing things to mess up the show, it doesn't help any. So there was this large table at the back of about 10 people. And I had played for these people. Well, let me give the good part first. I had people that came to see me who saw me there last July. Folks, people coming in my T-shirts, the T-shirts that I sell, and they'd seen me before and they wanted to come back. That's great. I love that stuff. That's the goal, right? People coming back, repeat business to see the new show. I'm so glad I had a whole bunch of new stuff to show them. But at the back was this group of 10. And I had played for that group of 10 previously. Not all of them. It was a couple different people, but it was the same ringleader, is a good way of putting up. And not to talk bad of anybody, but these were not the greatest people in the world. They're known for stiffing the waitresses on tips. It's the kind of people that are always looking for like a deal. Hey, what kind of deal can you give us? What kind of deal? Like, they didn't want to pay the cover charge. And then they're talking the whole time during the show. And like I said, this is a pretty small room. Everybody can hear them. And so they would listen to me tell a joke, they'd kind of laugh, and then they'd go discuss the joke among themselves for the next 5 minutes as I'm moving on to other jokes. And that makes the show very, very difficult to do. And so that was a much more difficult show because we're trying to wrangle the 10 people at the back, and I'm trying to make sure that the other people in the front are having a good time. It was a much more difficult show. So a larger audience, not always a better thing, is what I'm saying. I saw somebody on Facebook today was like, would you rather play a paid gig for a small audience or a large gig, like a huge large gig for free? And I was like, well, it depends on the audience. It absolutely depends on the audience. I've played some really great small shows, and I've played some really mediocre large shows. So you just never know what's going to happen. So then that night, I wanted to wake up in my own bed Sunday morning. So after that show, I got back in the car, drove another 3.5 hours back home. That puts me at 14 hours of driving over 2 days. That is a lot of driving. There's a weird sensation of stopping at the same Pilot gas station 4 times in the same weekend when it's 120 miles from home. They were going to know me by name if I stopped in there one more time. But I made it through. It was a lengthy weekend. Sunday, did some relaxing, did a few things around the house, didn't watch the Grammys because I'm not that interested anymore. So Sunday was a little more relaxing, just ran some errands, did some stuff around the house, made some tacos. It was good. This week, however, super back at it. So much stuff going on this week. Not only do I have a couple of interviews on the books to do this week, I'm talking to Jim Laird, Blackbeard, this week, and I'm talking to an author named Alan Ballag. It's good stuff. So you'll hear those coming up. So I got those on the books. I got 2 shows this week. I'm playing at on Thursday, February the 16th. I'm playing at the Thumbprint Cellars in Healdsburg, California. And then Friday, February the 17th, I'm playing at Angelica's in Redwood City, California. So I got those 2 things happen Thursday, Friday. Also this week, I'm dropping a new single. I hate that phrase, dropping a new single. I'm releasing a new single. I'm going to put it that way. It's more, I like that better. I don't like that phrase, dropping a single. I'm releasing a new single sometime this week. May not be out as you're hearing this yet, but it's called I Want to Rock Socially Responsibly. Alternately, it has been called the best song I've ever written or has generated 0 response. So I think it's a very, it's a song for a specific audience, apparently. But that song will be out this week. I might spin it for you on next week's episode or something. I don't know yet, but that's coming out. And then my guitar program launches this week. I have a guitar program that I've been working on for the last 3 years called Less is More Guitar. And I talked a little bit about it on a few episodes back when I was running the 30-day guitar challenge, things like that. But this is the guitar learning system that I've developed with my private students, and now I'm releasing it to the general public on the internet, and that opens up on Thursday. So craziness week, right? New guitar program opening up, new single coming out, 2 shows, a couple of interviews. I'm going to need such a nap by Sunday. Oh my gosh, I'm going to sleep so hard. But it's all good stuff. It's all great stuff. And there are other tour dates coming up. I'm going to be in San Francisco twice next week on the 23rd and 24th. London, coming for you. March the 16th, I will be at the Monkey Business Comedy Club at the Camden Eye in London on March 16th. So if you're in London, come on out and say hi. Love to meet you. We can tell some jokes. It's going to be good. If you are digging Under the Crossbones, and I hope you are, come on over to the Facebook group, Facebook page. Hook up with us there. It's facebook.com/underthecrossbones. On Twitter, we're at undercrossbones, Make sure you're subscribed to the show on your favorite podcatcher of choice, whether that's iTunes or Stitcher, Slacker, iHeartRadio, Overcast, Podcast Addict, whatever you're listening on. Make sure that you're subscribed to the show so you get all the new episodes. And of course, you can find all the episodes, show notes for this episode at underthecrossbones.com/078. And if you want to help support the show, that would be fantastic. I mean, you can go buy my music, my singles, my jokes, my DVDs, my guitar program that's coming out. That all helps support it too. It's a one-man show around here. But if you want to support the show directly, Go to underthecrossbones.com/support. There's a little PayPal box there. You can drop in a donation of whatever denomination you feel is appropriate. There's an Amazon banner there. Click that Amazon banner. Go buy yourself something nice at Amazon, and Amazon sends me a little bit of a kickback. I just bought a Kindle Fire. Welcome to 2013. I just bought my first tablet. I'm just going to throw a bunch of movies on it for the flight to London is mostly what I'm doing. But I bought one of the little Kindle Files. They had it on sale for $40, and it's a decent little tablet. So far, I haven't done much with it yet. But so maybe you go buy yourself a little $40 Kindle Fire. Amazon sends me a little kickback. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you want to be a sponsor of the show, that is cheap and easy to do. Just contact me through that support page right there, and we can get you hooked up with some sponsorship action on the show if you have a service or a product that you think a pirate audience would like. Okay. Whew. I'm going to take a breath. And while you're listening to the interview, I might go take a nap or breathe or eat something. But I'll be back. I'll talk to you after the interview. All right. Here's Sam Siegel, captain of the Schooner Pursuit. Enjoy. You are the owner and captain of the Schooner Pursuit, which is a ship that you are rebuilding, basically, from the looks of it. Tell me a little bit about the project, and then we'll find out how you got there.
All right. Oh God, what to say? I actually stumbled upon her. By accident.
Okay.
I was backtrack a little bit. A while ago, I got injured at work, and there was a big to-do about it. And a buddy of mine, after that, had said, "Hey, why don't you become a pirate?" And I laughed at him, but one night I'm thinking about this on my painkillers for my shoulder, and it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right.
So I just started, I just jumped in and started doing a web search looking for ships.
Okay.
Just to see, and I found one pretty reasonably priced. And it was one of those things that was like almost too good to be true. And it ended up being that way.
Sure.
But that prompted me to go on an adventure down in St. Augustine, Florida, to go take a look at that ship. As my girl and I, as we drove into the Marine Center down there, she sets her eyes on this absolutely gorgeous, beat to hell wood schooner.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "That's it." And I went, "I wish that was it. That's not it." And I look over, I point to the one it was. I said, "That's it." She got this really depressed look on her.
That's like a classic scene out of a movie right there.
It is. It really is. And we ended up not getting the ship we had gone down there to look at, which was kind of depressed because, the ship basically, its back was starting to buckle.
Oh, okay.
And just sitting there on the ground. Still there as far as I know. But we inquired about the Pursuit and ended up having to go to one of the local charter ships, the Schooner Freedom down there. And we just ended up getting put in touch with the owner, made an offer. The offer got accepted. And we had all this huge support and promises from a group of people up here. They're like, "Hey, that's cool. You can do this historic thing. There's a huge pirate history in the Philadelphia area. And yeah, we'll help you out. We'll back you." And then, which brings us to where we are now, where we bought the ship. Now she's sitting and our backers are like, "Sorry, can't help you."
That's no good.
It happens, but that's pretty much where we are and how we ended up with it.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. So you've been involved in the Revolutionary War reenactment scene for a while. Where do you come from? How did you get into that? And then we'll see how that comes into the ship.
Oh wow, let's see. I was born in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
My grandfather, huge lover of history, was into scouting his whole life and stuff like that. Took me to Fort Niagara when I was maybe 5 or 6. And first time I saw people dressing up like the soldiers, I'm like, I want to do that. That's kind of cool. And of course, then they fired off the cannons at Fort Niagara. And it went from there to having a love of history to I got old enough, started getting in other kinds of reenactments and stuff. And then a buddy of mine got me involved in Revolutionary War reenacting.
Okay.
As a German Jaeger, Hessian Jaeger, and and that group, that unit, we really didn't play around. It was literally like, I'm retired military myself, so it was like being back in that environment, but with flintlock rifles.
Right.
And they played in the woods. All these other groups stood up in lines and stuff, and we were pretty much the grunts of the whole revelry world. And most of our action was all in the woods, where the public really didn't get to see it.
Oh, okay. So you're really doing it for yourselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like to call us Christmas soldiers. That was what colors we were. Bright forest hunter green and a very big, bright, here I am, red trim. And
perfect for guerrilla warfare. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And it worked. Somehow it worked.
Now, what was it? Since that's not the Revolutionary War doesn't get talked about much on this show. What was the function of the Germans in that war? Because even I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay, in England, King George had cousins and family ties through the crown in Germany.
Okay,
so he hired a lot of extra manpower through Hesse Castle, which now Germany, then Austria, Germany, and Hungary, that area. So basically, they're mercenaries, but they're not mercenaries.
Okay.
You know, the king basically said, hey, we'll pay these people, but we need your help because we need people that know what the heck they're doing. And, well, who else do you go to act as a state police? But, you know, Germans, because, well, they spend their life in the woods. Right. So all these guys came over and stuff like that. The Fusiliers, the Grenadiers, and things like that. And I have no idea what the heck they did.
Okay.
I know a lot about the Jaegers, but I don't know what the other Hessians did other than create problems for the Continentals.
Right.
Basically, the Germans were kind of like the reserve forces.
Oh, okay.
For the crown.
Okay, that makes sense. And so what was so when you got into the reenacting, what was the first type of reenacting that you were doing?
Oh, good grief. That would have been medieval.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so when you got into the Revolutionary War stuff, you said you had a friend kind of bring you into that. Did you go right into this German Jaeger persona, or was there someplace else that you started? What was that first event like that you did there?
That was pretty much it. My brother, for all intents and purposes, is the one that got me in it. And he's like, hey, you just come to this event, check this out, see what we do. And I went. It was at Mount Hope Lodge. This is going back a couple of years. And I went and I saw how they all interacted and stuff on the field. And then it was weird because it's not so much a persona so much as guys get dressed up and then they reenact battles.
Right.
You know, from a historical standpoint. Some of the stuff is mostly scripted.
Okay.
But every now and then there's different events that they'll have people and they'll go, okay, well, let's do it however it plays out. And those are the fun ones. Those are the ones that make people go, that's not supposed to happen that way.
England won.
Yeah. I've been in a number of those scenarios before.
Interesting. Because I mean, there's a lot of people involved in something like that. How out of hand can something like that get if it's being done unscripted, like a mass improv?
It's first off, it's very, very, very safe.
Sure.
As far as getting out of hand, historically wise, like I said, 90% of it's all script.
Right.
But those few that are not, and we just go and we use the tactics, and you try and figure. It's like a giant live action role play.
Okay.
So it actually flows together fairly smooth. I mean, yeah, in any type of thing like that, you're always going to have people that aren't going to take shots or take hits,
right,
and stuff like that. And that's a lot of that I actually had to learn on the fly. And when you're right there in the thick of it,
right,
and you've got a musket aimed over your head by a couple of feet, you know, but it looks like it's aimed at you, and you're there doing the same thing with the guy. And it's one of those whoever fires first,
right?
Ever close. And there's a lot of silent communication and there's a lot of working together. It's kind of an improvisational. Improv.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. It's an improv. Yeah. It's there's a lot of that going on with some choreography.
Okay.
So it works. It flows some way.
How much is there because I've always, the reenactments are always sort of this weird form of theater where sometimes there's an audience, sometimes there's not. It's sort of like live action role play, except you're not playing Doctor Who or something like that. And how often is there an audience watching something like this versus just doing it out?
I'd say most of the time there's an audience watching.
Okay.
I've been to maybe 2 or 3 events that were just for kind of us, the reenactors, that the public either didn't know about or would happen in areas where the public couldn't see.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was a Jaeger, there was a lot of that.
Oh, okay.
Who wants to go crawling through the wood, tick infested woods, to watch a bunch of can't really say it any other way than 40 middle-aged guys playing dress up, shooting at each other, with basically cap guns.
Right. But if it's done in front of a camera or on a stage, then it becomes totally legitimate. That's what I think is the interesting thing about it.
Yeah. In fact, I just read something on Facebook. There's a group that's doing a movie down in some town close to Mount Vernon in Virginia. And the neighbors have been calling the local TV station asking what the heck is going on, because it sounds like there's a war zone down there. They're filming a short 15-minute movie for Mount Vernon.
Funny.
You got reenactors involved in it. As soon as I read that, I'm like, yeah, there's reenactors involved here.
Right. That's funny. So then you become a pirate. Tell us about, because like I said, we don't talk Revolutionary War on this show that often, so this is interesting. How do pirates and privateers figure into the Revolutionary War? Because it's not where we generally think of them.
No, it isn't. In fact, the golden age of piracy ended about 30 years before the Revolutionary War. But historically, there have always been pirates.
Certainly.
And, of course, those of us that love them, we all know that pirates are basically where we stand for liberty. During the Revolutionary War, however, there was so many different piratical things that happened that it's hard, most people ignore it, but at the same time, it's hard to not see it. One of the biggest, actually still standing forts was built because of river pirates, Fort Mifflin.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually built to protect Philadelphia from the river pirates.
Interesting.
So we've got that right there. Off the coast of New Jersey and up and down the Delaware and all along the tributary systems, there were river pirates or privateers doing battle. Some were loyalists and others were continental. Congress itself actually signed over 1,600 letters of marque during the Revolutionary War.
Interesting. So what kind of ships were they using? Because obviously they're not using big Spanish galleons and things at this point. What kind of ships are they using to sail on the rivers? On the rivers, they're basically using anything that they had, any type of merchant sailing vessel of the time. Okay. So they were using some of them would be as daring as wandering up with skiffs. A lot of them were just standard merchant ships, schooners. A couple of brigs, stuff like that. The USS Liberty, which was actually off of one of the, up in New York, I want to say she was actually part of one of the Finger Lakes up that way. She was a schooner that was commandeered from a British general, and they basically threw cannons on it. Okay. I mean, there's also another gunboat that's called the Liberty as well, and it's basically a rowboat. It's the A-10 of its time. Okay. They took this giant cannon, mounted it in the bow of this rowboat, and that was they were throwing. If it could float and hold a cannon, they were putting it on. That's great.
And that's actually how the U.S. Navy got its start too.
Oh, okay, interesting. So if you were going into a reenactment of some sort, and I imagine you probably haven't done a whole bunch of that yet since the ship isn't ready to go, but if you were going into the reenactment of a particular battle, a river battle of some sort. Do you have a short list of, there's a battle I'd like to reenact?
We're still researching a lot of that.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it actually is lost to the depths of time.
Sure.
There's in source material, you look at something, you literally have to dig and go, okay, there was a ship, there was this many people. I have a friend of mine that does this for a living, just in history. And one of his little things is he likes to go look at ships' rosters to see who went where and stuff like that.
Okay.
There's a lot of digging.
Yeah.
And we're starting to do that. But when we go to an event, we're looking for events that privateers would have been at.
Okay. Are you finding that to be less covered than regular land battles?
Oh, absolutely.
I wonder why that is.
I have no idea.
No? Huh.
My best guess is, you hear about the victories, but you don't hear a lot about the guys that don't make it away.
Oh, okay.
I did find some brief mention to a couple of people that decided, hey, let's try and play both sides of things, because that went on.
Right.
And what I found out is it didn't end well for anybody. Eventually we're caught and hung.
And I would imagine, since the U.S. didn't really have a Navy yet, the British Navy was probably far superior at that time in their navigating skills and everything.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm still trying to find out exactly how many letters of marque the British Crown signed and gave out. But having meeting some stone walls on that, it's not as forthcoming with any lists as you would think. I know it's out there. I know I'll find it. It's just finding the time to dig.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't even thought of it that way before. That's pretty cool. So you got your hands on this ship. Your financiers decided to not financier. And what's the state of the ship now?
All right. Well, the state of the ship she's been in dry dock for the last 5 years.
Okay.
So, of course, what any wooden ship, the longer it stays out of water, the worse condition the wood gets.
Sure.
Everything from her chine boards, if anybody's familiar with ships at all, they are rather wide beams or planks that go all along the side, from bow to stern, on both sides of the ship. This one has a lower and an upper chine boards. They're starting to warp out. And it's basically, it follows the water line.
Okay.
And all the wood from above that is basically starting to dry rot.
Ooh.
It's not wet rot because there's nothing wet about it.
Right.
It's all just drying. It's so dry, and it's been so dry, it just has to be replaced.
Sure, yeah.
But from all the wood from below the chine boards is all good.
Huh, interesting.
Except for one area, I actually have to peel. We have to peel all the planks, the outer planks out, to cut out the part that is bad, and it's just a small part. We're talking maybe a section of 2 by 3, 2 foot by 3 foot.
Okay.
And then replace it just for good measure, and then put everything else back.
Right.
And of course, the masts have been sitting up, so we got to replace all the rigging and stuff like that. She needs a lot of work.
Yeah. What parts of it can you keep at that point?
At that point, just about everything else. Her frame is in excellent condition.
Okay.
She was made out of white oak. Well, history on the ship. She was built back in 1977.
All right.
She was designed by a man named Frank Fulcherio, who's from Mystic Seaport, Connecticut. The ship itself was built in the Chesapeake Bay, we're finding out, by the Tiffany Yacht Works.
Okay.
And she was commissioned as Voyager in 1978. And she sailed up and down the East Coast. She's been in the Caribbean for quite a while. She's got a fairly decent pedigree. But she sailed as a charter out of Mystic Seaport, Connecticut for many, many, many years.
Okay.
And somehow it changed owners and changed owners and changed owners. And then somewhere along the lines, one of the owners, it wasn't the people that I bought it from, but the people that they bought it from.
Okay.
They basically just let it sit. and didn't do any of the required overhauling necessary for a ship at that age.
Right.
And when they bought it, they sailed her from Jacksonville, where she was sitting at the time, down to St. Augustine.
Okay.
They replaced the keel, and they replaced the propeller shaft, and then they started doing other stuff. And that's where my better half and I came in. We bought the ship,
and there you are.
Got in over our, here we are. Got in kind of over our heads a little bit.
So then how many people do you have working on it with you? It can't be just you and your girl. That would be insane.
No, it is insane. No, we've got a crew of about 15.
Oh, okay.
Right now. And when we started out, there was me, my buddy Doc, who's actually a retired U.S. Navy.
Okay.
He served aboard the USS Constitution for a time while he was in the Navy. He's one of the medical wards.
Yeah.
And he was telling me stories about that and all their uniforms and stuff like that. And there's my buddy John. He's our gunner. He's another Air Force vet like myself, and he's done artillery, both naval and land based, and reenactments. Okay. So he's basically our safety officer. Our quartermaster is not a vet. He is I love Troy to death. We nicknamed him Zatara. Okay. Off of a line that I saw in a movie.
All right. Which movie?
Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
The main character, they called him Zatara,
right?
Which translates to driftwood.
Okay.
Which is kind of how he came about to us in a roundabout way. So,
nice.
He's a real go-getter. And then we've got my girl, who's also ship scribe. I've got a bosun who's hell of a guy. My adopted brother, who served in the Jaegers together. He doesn't do a whole lot now because of his work schedule. So, and then there's a couple from my reenactment group and a couple of other people who just kind of want to volunteer.
That's great. So the ship is still in St. Augustine at the moment. So you're trekking from Pennsylvania, where you are, all the way down there to work on the ship.
Yep, when we can. Which is not very often.
Yeah, no, that's a long way to go for a project like that. That's interesting.
Oh my!
So we get all the money raised. The ship is beautiful and ready to go, seaworthy. What's your plan for it then?
Our plan is to actually sail it up and down the Delaware River, giving the history of basically the river pirates and the pirates of the American Revolution.
Okay.
Or privateers, as it were. We get a lot. We've had some fairly decent flack from some people in the Rev War community for using the word pirate because they don't like it. But you got to call a spade a spade.
Sure.
It is what it is. We're pirates. I've learned to embrace that. But yeah, ultimately the goal is to get the ship up here, to give tours, birthday parties, that kind of thing. Throw events, go to the different pirate festivals and stuff, and show her off and charter her up and down.
That's great. That sounds like it would be a really nice life.
We're hoping. We don't have anything like that up here.
Nothing at all like that?
Nothing like that at all. I mean, yeah, you get down to like Baltimore,
sure,
Maryland. You've got the there's the Calamar Nickel down that way. There's also the Pride of Baltimore, the second. I have to remember that, which is actually kind of sort of a sister ship to the Pursuit.
Oh, okay.
Back when she was, there's several pictures of her back when she was a Voyager, trailing right behind the Pride of Baltimore, and they very, very similar paint scheme.
Oh, okay.
Much smaller ship, but very similar paint scheme. And she's a big girl in her own right too.
Yeah. How large is the ship?
Oh, she is 65 foot long.
Wow.
From bow to stern. Her deck is 20 and a half feet wide. If you add the bowsprit into it, which is the yard arm that hangs off the bow of the ship, she's 96 foot long.
Wow.
Her main mast is 78 foot. Her foremast is 72 foot.
That's a good size ship.
That's a big girl.
Yeah. And so then what's your background in sailing that would make you say, yep, I can sail that ship?
I started when I was probably 18, hanging out. I'm from Rochester originally, so I spend my summers in the Finger Lakes.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine had a little dinghy with a sail on it, and I take that out every chance I could get because he wasn't using it, and I was up that way more than he was.
Okay.
So I've spent, but the biggest boat that I've ever owned is probably a power boat, and that was maybe 14 foot. But the sailing is that I've come to learn and stuff. The principle's all the same. It's just getting people in the right positions at the right times.
Sure.
To do what it needs to do to keep your sailing and keep everybody safe.
Yeah. Well, that ought to be an interesting adventure in itself. The first few times you take that out.
Oh, absolutely. Because every little creek, I'm going to be like, okay, we're broke.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. That is great. So you're raising money for this project here. Where can people donate to you?
We've got a GoFundMe page, and it's GoFundMe/The Schooner Pursuit.
Okay.
Schooner is spelled SCHOONER, for those that don't know. And Pursuit, just like the word.
Yep.
Let's see, we're on Facebook, same, Facebook.com/The Schooner Pursuit.
Okay.
We've also got a website, which is piratesofthepursuit.com.
Okay.
And we're on Twitter, of course, too.
Sure. Okay, cool. And I'll make sure to link up all that in the show notes and everything. Sam, this has been really fun, man. I'm glad we got a chance to do this.
I'm glad we did too.
All right, cool. I will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
And there it is, friends. That is my interview with Sam Siegel, captain of the Schooner Pursuit. And you can find all the stuff that they're working on at piratesofthepursuit.com. That's got links to the GoFundMe page, the Facebook page, all the Twitter, all the places you can find them. Go to piratesofthepursuit.com and you can check that out. And send Sam a couple of bucks. Help him out with his boat. What an idiot. Help him out with his ship. It's not a boat. It's not a dinghy. It's a large, wonderful ship. Help him out with his ship and send him some money. Under the Crossbones is sponsored this week by Pirate Radio of the Treasure Coast, WKKC-DB. Playing the best music and pirate radio talk. And you can listen to this show, Under the Crossbones, on both their stations. Just go to pirateradioofthetreasurecoast.com or pirateradiotc.com. And don't forget to download the apps Pirate Radio Treasure Coast, which is the music station, and Pirate Radio Talk, which is the talk station. Also, I would like to find out more about you. Yes, because I want to find out more about what we need to do on the show, where we might go to do a more live podcasts. I want to do more of those this year because that's fun. And so I need to know a little bit more about you and everybody else in my audience. So if you could do me a giant favor and go fill out a quick little survey, 7 questions, take you no time at all, underthecrossbones.com/survey. It's underthecrossbones.com/survey. Very quick, very easy, and it would be a giant help to me if you would do that. I also have an ebook for you. Alexander X. Quemlin's Pirates of Panama or Buccaneers of America. It's a seminal piece of pirate writing from the golden age of piracy, and if you have not read it, you must read it. It's not like homework. It's actually good. It's really fun and exciting to read. It's not homework. Kind of homework. I mean, if you're listening to this show, but it's the kind of homework that's fun. So if you want that, go to underthecrossbones.com, click on the free ebook button, and you can get it right there. Or if you are out and about and all you have is your phone with you, just text the word pirate and your email address to 94253, and that will kick you back a link to download the book right onto your phone. How's that? Technology? Yes, right on. And let's see. Oh, the one other thing is I want to start playing some trip reports and things from you guys, right? So from you listening, have you been to a festival lately? Did you go to, maybe you went to Pirates on the Prairie in Grand Prairie, Texas last weekend, and you have some experiences there. I want to hear what you guys are doing out in the pirate world, right? So here's how you do it. I want you to call this phone number. It's 408-599-2733. All right? 408-599-2733. Leave me a voicemail there. Let me know about your experiences, about whatever pirate event you have been to recently, and if it's cool, if it's interesting, I'll play it on the show. Cool? Yeah. And if you have a thing that you want me to link back to in the show notes, that will happen as well. All right? So that number is 408-599-2733. Okay, that is our show for today, friends. Thank you once again for tuning in. If you want to find out more about Sam Siegel and the Schooner Pursuit, go go to piratesofthepursuit.com. Make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, wherever you're subscribing to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to Under the Crossbones, and those iTunes reviews, always a very happy day when new ones show up. So I like to see those. They do help us over on iTunes, so make sure you get that happening over there too. If you were listening last week to Dan from Parada Clothing and you haven't entered the raffle yet, you have until the end of February to do that. Just go to underthecrossbones.com/win to win the treasure box prize pack from Parada Clothing from Dan Stevens, last week's guest. And yeah, I think that's it. Man, so much stuff going on this week. By next week, I'm going to be exhausted. I'll probably be talking slower. That probably won't happen. But anyway, you guys have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.